Now let's begin.
3, 2, 1.
Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Fro in the building. And today, I'm going to be talking about Del Toro's version of Pinocchio. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. I was very surprised with how much I love this movie. I will say that this was a pretty dark and emotional watch. From the start of the movie, I'm deciding if I'm going to like it or not. But when we hit the 10-minute mark, it's a pretty big gut punch. And I was surprised with the decision this movie took in the first 10 minutes. I'm going to give out some spoilers in 3, 2, 1. In this flick, Geppetto has a son named Carlo. In the opening scene, Carlo dies when the church is bombed by a missile incoming from the sky. Geppetto goes through a very brutal, heart-wrenching loss sequence. Geppetto chops down a tree when he's drunk, and he builds a boy out of wood. We have Sebastian J. Cricket, who I really loved in this movie, and we first find him in a tree that Geppetto chops down. He tags along for the remainder of the film, and I thought he was an awesome addition. A blue magical fairy or being called the Wood Sprite comes up to Geppetto and gives Pinocchio life. The Wood Sprite blue being looks at Sebastian, and she gives him one wish as long as he's able to look over Pinocchio while he's alive.
From my many wanderings on this earth, I had so much to say about imperfect fathers and imperfect sons, and about loss. I've learned that there are old spirits who rarely involve themselves in the human world, but on occasion, they do. A story. Of the wooden boy.
Now moving on to the characters, I really enjoy Pinocchio. I will admit that I thought he was a bit overbearing and a little too wonky and crazy in the first few moments that we meet him, but he really started to grow on me in the best way, and I started to really root for him. Pinocchio wants Geppetto to be proud of him, and even tries to act like the late son Carlo when Sebastian tells Pinocchio why Geppetto is sad and miserable. But near the end of the flick, Geppetto wants Pinocchio to be Pinocchio, and I like how this arc was really done. David Bradley does an awesome job with his voice work as Geppetto. His scenes are probably the most emotional, very hard to watch at times, or at least it was for me. I felt sorry for the guy because of his loss with Carlo, but I really enjoyed the overall connection and chemistry with Pinocchio as we go along. He builds the boy himself out of the wood, but he's sketched out and rightfully freaked out when it comes to life. So it takes him a little bit to really look at Pinocchio as a boy. But overall, great job and performance from David Bradley. Sebastian J. Cricket might be my overall favorite character. I liked how Ewan McGregor voiced him and gave him some good personality. I liked the narrator work and even thought it added some weight and some depth at certain moments. Some punch, if you will. Pinocchio gets caught up with this creepy circus ringleader guy. And this dude is voiced by Christoph Waltz. I'm a fan of Christoph. I think he's a great actor, does great work every time he's on screen. Even if the movie isn't good, he's still gonna pull a great performance, in my opinion. In this flick, the circus ringleader's name is Count Volpe. This guy is an evil, creepy, sinister, conniving, slithery, snakish scumbag in this flick. Geppetto's town and church is rightfully sketched out by Pinocchio. They want to stay far away from him at first. They're scared of him. They don't like the sight of him. There's a highly decorated government official of the town, the Podesta, who's voiced by Ron Perlman, surprisingly, who also does a pretty good job playing a guy that you really hate. I would say towards the beginning of the third act is when Podesta forces Pinocchio to go into boot camp or to go into military school to toughen up Pinocchio and use him as a weapon for the army. This sequence was pretty fun to watch, but it was a dark conclusion, which brings me to this. Spoilers. The deaths of the villains in this movie are very brutal, surprisingly for a PG-rated film. I have no problem with this. I thought they were very satisfying to watch, but it did surprise me. I was like, holy shit, this is insane. Count Volpe has Pinocchio tied up on a stake, He's about to burn him to death, but Volpe's assistant monkey, Spazzatura, jumps on Volpe, which makes him fall off this tall fucking cliff, and Volpe smashes on the rock, and it's just a loud crunch like crack. I was super surprised. I was like, damn, that was pretty graphic for this type of movie, but in an awesome way. I loved it, don't get me wrong. It just surprised me. But the way Podesta dies was pretty freaky too. He gets caught up in the net, then the missile's going right at him, and boom, blows him up. I thought that was pretty crazy. And I really loved the monkey character. I thought the monkey was awesome. At first, the monkey hates Pinocchio because Pinocchio's still in the show. But I will admit, I did predict that Spazzatura was going to change sides and eventually help Pinocchio. Just with the way Volpe was beating the shit out of Spazzatura and treating the monkey like shit, I knew the monkey was eventually going to either fight back or go to Pinocchio's side. And as predictable as that arc is, I still loved how the movie delivered it. He really turns into a true homie that sticks by Geppetto and Pinocchio and Sebastian's side. One thing I really liked about the movie was Pinocchio is immortal. So every time he dies, he goes to this land where he has a face-to-face with death, who's pretty much the sister of the wood sprite being who gives Pinocchio life. She explains to Pinocchio that he's immortal, but there's an hourglass of sand, and she says when the glass is emptied, he returns to the regular realm as a regular boy, and when he dies, he'll officially die. And pretty much every time Pinocchio goes to the afterlife, his time increases there. I love the whale sequence. The whale looked pretty freaky at times. Obviously, the CGI was there. I love the inside of the whale and how gross and grotesque the gas bubbles were. There's a nice little gross moment where Spazzatura the monkey pops up from the bile in the stomach. And there's a bubble around his head and it pops. It was a little goofy, but still like, a little gross. I like how they got out of the whale. There's an opening to the blowhole that they see, so Pinocchio lies to make his nose grow longer, to have them walk across. And I thought that sequence was pretty intense. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. Pinocchio pretty much sacrifices himself by touching one of the mines floating around inside the whale. Blows up the fucking whale. Geppetto nearly dies of drowning, so Pinocchio saves him, but Pinocchio ends up dying. I gotta say, the ending fucked me up. I did not expect it to be so sentimental and bittersweet, but in a really nice way, if that makes sense. It was a nice ribbon that was tied at the conclusion of this film. When Geppetto died, that messed me up. When Spazzatura the monkey died, that messed me up. When Sebastian the cricket died, that messed me up. I just got gut punches in those last 5 or 10 minutes. I really, really, really love this ending, and I would give the ending itself a 10 out of 10. Awesome conclusion. But overall, like I said, this movie really surprised me. I had an excellent time watching this flick. Very sentimental, gut punching. I recommend a box of tissues if you're a softie with emotional movies. I am, there's no shame in that. Overall, great voice work. I like the visuals and the animated style. It gave a nice darker feel to the flick. If there's any nitpicks that I have, it's maybe the way the Life and the Death sisters kind of looked. Their motions were a little bit distracting at times, and it did remind me of a PlayStation 2 cutscene here and there. But that's the only thing I could really think about. The movie's still fucking awesome. And this was definitely one of my favorite movies of 2022. Like, no question. Maybe top 3 or top 5 for me. But I'm gonna give Del Toro's Pinocchio a 9.5 out of 10. Thank y'all for watching. It's your boy Fro Thizzle. Subscribe for more Fro reviews. I appreciate you. Till next time.